I'm going to discuss use case diagrams. The owner of the slides I use here is Dr. Timothy Lethbridge at the University of Ottawa. So you can download these slides from the link I have shown here. And first of all, I thank Dr. Timothy Lethbridge for granting me the permission to use these slides to create YouTube videos. Now we are going to discuss use case diagrams. Okay, in brief, what is the purpose? Okay, let's say so we are going to develop an information system for a particular domain. For an example, let's say either it is a hospital or a university, okay, something like that. Then before you start developing the information system, you have to gather requirements, you have to develop requirements. So you have to interview the users of the system in order to understand the requirements. Okay, so in order to assist this developing requirements process, we can use case diagrams. Use case diagrams is a useful tool that can be used for developing requirements. Okay, now let's begin our discussion. Now let's try to understand the meaning of use cases. That means describing how the user will use the system. Okay, use cases means they describe how the user will use the system. Okay, and this is the definition for a particular use case. A use case is a typical sequence of actions that a user performs in order to complete a given task. For an example, let's consider we are going to develop an information system for a university. Okay, now user is there, system is there. Now in this particular example, let's say user is a student. Okay, now the student is going to perform a task, register in course, register in a course. Let's say okay, this is the task student is going to do. Okay, now a use case is a typical sequence of actions that the user performs in order to complete a given task. Now what student does here? First action is the student clicks the button and register in a course. Okay, then after, what is the response of the system? It displays all the courses available in the university. Then student selects the appropriate course. Okay, and then the student presses the OK button. Then the system asks, do you want to register this course in this particular course? Then the student says yes. After that, the system will display a message you have successfully registered in this particular course. Okay, now this is the typical sequence of actions to perform this particular task. Okay, so now I hope you understand, a use case is a typical sequence of actions that a user performs in order to complete a given task. Okay, now let's try to understand the objective of use case analysis. Use case analysis is to model the system from the point of view of how users interact with the system. That means a particular user how interacts with the system. Okay, we are going to model that how users interact with this system when trying to achieve their objectives. It is one of the key activities in requirements analysis. Now let's try to understand what is a use case model. Use case model. So if you look at university system, now this is one particular task, no? This is actually a one particular use case now. One particular use case, and in our system developed for the university, we can find this kind of a large number of this kind of use cases. Now a use case model means we have a set of use cases and also an optional description or diagram indicating how they are related. This particular diagram we call the use case diagram. Okay, in that way, for one particular system we can draw a particular use case diagram. Okay, now let's move to the next slide. Then another thing, use case. We discuss about use cases in detail. A use case should cover the full sequence of steps from the beginning of a task until the end. That means this is a particular task, and in order it to be a use case, okay, it should cover all the steps in the task. We cannot take only first 3 steps and call it a use case, because it is not a complete task. Okay, so full sequence of steps. In this way, full sequence is necessary in order to call it a use case. Okay, describe the user's interaction with the system. Now it describes how user interacts with the system. Okay, and not the computations the system performs. Inside the system, once we have inside the system, before it responds, once user does a particular action, before system responds, the system may be doing a computation inside the system. That computation we do not include in a use case. Okay, only the interaction with the system and the user. Okay, interaction between the system and user we include. Okay, then be written so as to be independent as possible from any particular user interface design. Once you have once you have written use cases, okay, like this, then you can use these use cases to design user interfaces. But when you write use cases, we have to always be independent from particular user interface designs. And the other thing is only includes actions in which the actor interacts with the computer, not actions a user does manually. Similarly, here when certain actions are performed by the user, the user may do certain actions manually, but we do not include those actions in our use case. Okay, we include only the interaction between the system and the user. Okay, those are the important things you should know about use cases. Now let's move to the next slide. Now what do we understand by a scenario? Okay, now this is the task register in a course. Okay, now now student actor performs and course. Student actor registers in a course. That is our use case. Okay, register in a register in a course is our use case. Now let's say a student with this particular registration number, okay, registers for a course called software engineering. Okay, registers. So this is an instance of register in a course use case. For another example, a student with this particular registration number registered for a course, this particular course. Okay, that is another instance. Likewise, this kind of an instance we call it a scenario, and a scenario is an instance of a use case. In other words, a specific occurrence of the use case. A specific actor, that means the student with this particular registration number, with this specific data, this particular course, and sometimes the time of registration. Okay, all those details. Actually, for one particular use case, the instances we call them as scenarios. Okay, now let's move to the next slide. Now, how to describe a single use case? Okay, in order to describe a single use case, actually there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 titles. Okay, for the sake of completeness, I have included all of them, but in this particular video we focus on name of a particular use case. What we have described, name is register in a course. Okay, that is the name. And when we give names to use cases, we have to be careful, give a short descriptive name to the use case. Okay, so in this way we can give a short and sweet name. Then we have to specify the actors. In this particular system there is only one particular actor. Only students can register. Only students can register for courses. Therefore, only student. But there may be use cases. For them, there may be more than one particular actor. Okay, later we will see that kind of use cases. Then goals, preconditions. If you want to get an idea about the other titles, then you can read chapter 4 of the book written by these two authors, and a link to the book is given here. Okay. So I just ignore goals and preconditions, summary, then related use cases. Okay, related use cases we have to include. That means for one particular use case, it may be related with other use cases. Those relations we can include here. Later we will discuss that. And the other one we focus is steps. Steps means in this way, in two column format. Describe each step use in two column format. It is something like this, two columns, this side and this side. Okay, in that way you have to write steps, and here it says A and G are important. That means name and steps are important. Now let's move to the next slide. This shows an example. Now actors usually we represent, actually this is a use case diagram. Okay, use case diagram. An example, actors we represent using this stick person symbol. Here we say this is the registrar, actor. Okay, just say registrar, actor is optional. Okay, now add course of offering. This is one particular use case. Okay, so that is performed by registrar actor. Then add course. Once courses are introduced in university system, registrar is the person who is responsible to add courses through the information system. So this is executed by the registrar, and find information about course. This is another use case that can be performed by the registrar. Not only registrar, if it is a student also can find information about course. Therefore, this use case can be performed by the student as well. Then this is the register in a course or in course. Yes, this is what we discussed at the beginning in previous situation. Okay, register in course, that use case can be performed by student actor. Then professor actor is here. Okay, so professor actor can perform this particular use case. And also, once the student has sat for the examination for a particular course, he or she has registered, then professor is the person who enter grade for course. Then enter grade for course. That use case is performed by the professor actor. Okay, likewise, this is an example for a use case diagram. Now let's move to the next slide. we talk about extensions. Extensions. Now, if you have a particular basic use case, okay, use case is represented using an oval like this, then extensions means we can have another use case like this, okay, used to make optional interactions explicit or to handle exceptional cases. The purpose is to keep the description of the basic use case simple. That means when we try to perform the sequence of actions of a particular use case, there can occur exceptional cases, exceptional cases. That means let's say in our system we are trying to open a file, okay, then when open a file, that may be that, let's say that is the use case, then once you select the file and then click open, that is in that way you can describe the sequence of actions, okay. You select the file, then it is displayed in the system, okay. That is the normal behavior. But in a case, let's say the file is corrupted, then what is the sequence of actions, okay. That is an exceptional situation. Such kind of exceptional situations we can include in a separate use case, okay. So later, using an example I will discuss. For the time being, you understand this is your use case, this is the normal sequence of actions. Sometimes exceptional cases can occur. Those exceptional cases we can include in a separate use case, okay, and we say this is an extension of this particular use case, okay. The purpose is to keep the basic use case simple, okay. So then let's move to the next one. You have generalizations, okay. Much like superclasses in a class diagram. If you are not familiar with class diagrams, don't worry, okay. If you are familiar with class diagrams, generalizations are similar to having superclasses in a class diagram. That means a generalized use case represents several similar use cases. That means if you have several use cases, similar use cases, that means you can consider the common steps. You can put common steps in a separate use case and connect them like this, okay, connect them like this, okay. So one or more specializations provide details of similar use cases. That means now our diagram becomes smarter, because if there are similar use cases, we extract the common steps and put them in a separate use case, and the relationship here in English we can say it as is a relationship. That means this use case is a relationship with this one. This one is a this type, okay. Likewise later you will see, okay. This is just a rough idea I am giving. In detail we discuss this, then you will understand this perfectly. Then again we talk about inclusions. Then let's say we have several use cases, okay, and they have some set of steps they have in common, okay. So those common steps we can include in a separate use case, okay. Then we say for this one, this is an inclusion, okay. So this is different from generalizations because these are not similar in this situation. Only thing is they have some set of steps in common. So those common set of steps we can include in a separate use case, and now we can include this particular use case in these use cases, okay. Those are called inclusions and allow one to express commonality between several different use cases. Are included in other use cases, even very different use cases can share sequence of actions, okay. Maybe they are not similar. If they are similar, we can model them as generalizations. They are not similar, but they share sequence of actions in common. Certain set of action steps they share in common. So therefore those common things we can include in a separate use case, and we say this is an inclusion for these use cases, okay. Enable you to avoid repeating details in multiple use cases. Since those steps are common in these use cases, we can avoid repeating those steps in each of these use cases, okay. So that is the advantage of having inclusions in our use case diagrams. Represent the performing of a lower level task with a lower level goal, okay. That is another thing. Now let's move to the next slide. Now you see a very simple example for generalization, extension and inclusion, okay. Then using this example you can understand very clearly. Now let's say you have a particular use case, open file by typing name, okay. That is particular use case, open file by typing name. In our system we can open a file by typing a name. There is a particular text box, we type the name of the file and click open button, okay. So that is a particular use case. Another use case, open file by browsing. Open file by browsing. Now that means you open, in order to open a file, you navigate through the folders. You include a particular folder, then again if the file is not there, you again open another folder and look at inside. Likewise you continue, okay. Open file by browsing. So to both of these use cases we can have, later you will see, we can have a set of and these are similar, okay. These two use cases are similar because they both of them describes how to open a file in different ways, okay. So here we put a use case, okay. This is a generalization. Now you can have is a relationship here. Open file by typing name is a open file, okay. Open file by browsing is a open file, is an, okay. According to English it is an, is or is an, okay. Now That is what you see there. Okay, now when we try to open file by typing name, okay, then an exceptional case can occur. An exceptional case can occur. You type the file name and click the button. So if that particular file does not exist, what to do? Okay, that is an exceptional situation. So that is not relevant to this one. In this use case, you type the file name and open it. Okay, that is the sequence of actions here. But if the file does not exist, we are not going to include those things in this use case. Instead, we can use an extension to simplify. So here attempt to open file that does not exist. That does not exist. Okay, here we include the set of actions to be performed if the type file does not exist in our storage. Okay, so here we use this notation. The direction of the array is important, and here inside elements we write the word extend in order to see that this is an extension. Now this is our base use case. Base use case is this one. Now this is the extension. This is the extension. Okay, so the arrow direction is important. We point the arrow from the extension to the base use case. Okay, and now let's see, when you perform open file by browsing, that has browsing a file, that part we can include in a separate use case. Browse for file. Browse for file. Okay, because here open file by browsing, then browsing part, there is a sequence of actions. That part we can take outside this particular use case and represent in a separate use case. Okay, so here now the arrow direction is important. Okay, here we inside elements we write include, and the meaning of this one, now this is the base use case and this is the inclusion. This is the base use case and this is the inclusion, and look at the direction of the array from the base use case to the included use case. That is the direction of the array. Okay, that is important in notation. Okay, now this is the diagram. So I know that you do not feel this diagram properly at this moment, but when we discuss this further, you will properly understand. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. Now here now example description now of a use case. That means now this is the use case diagram. Okay, and here I forgot these parts I have drawn, and I forgot to explain this one. That means open file use case is executed by the ordinary by an ordinary user. And also here we can have a generalization system administrator. Here system administrator has is a relationship with ordinary user. That's why we have used here generalization. Okay, that's the part. Then once you have drawn the use case diagram for each use case, now you can write the use case descriptions. Now example description of a use case. That means, let's say use case, this is the name of the use case. Name of the use case is open file. Okay, that means we are going to write a description for this particular use case. Then related use cases. Okay, here generalization of open file by typing name, okay, then the other one open file by browsing. Generalization of these two, that means open file use case, these two are related, it has relationships with these two, and open file is generalization of this use case and this use case. Okay, now we write steps. These are the only parts in this video we discuss. Now here we include actor actions. Now this is called the 2-column format. Okay, actor actions and system responses. So now let's see actor action. The first one, choose open. Okay, open, likewise any open command. Let's say open command. Open a file or some command is executed in order to open file. Okay, then as the second step, file open dialog appears. Now response of the system is file open dialog appears. That is the response. Now the actor clicks a particular button or something like that, open. Then after that, from the system it displays a particular dialog box to us. Then here as the third step, specify file name. File name is specified. Then after that, confirm, selection is confirmed. Okay, after that, then as the step 5, dialog disappears. Okay, now this is the sequence of actions. For an example, in our system we have a particular button, open a file or something like that. Okay, that button is clicked by the user. Then after that a dialog box appears and there is a particular text box there. Okay, then file name is not a text box. Anyway, in the system we specify the file name, then after that we confirm it, and after that dialog disappears. Okay, now this part, this is not clear. Specify file name, how it is done, it is not clear here. Here it is mentioned just as specify file name. Okay, now because this is our generalization, now we have two use cases specializing this particular use case, and in these two we have to expand this. Okay, here we just say specify file name. How the file name is specified, that should be specified, that should be explained in these two use cases. Okay, now let's see. Now let's see here. Now our use case is open file by typing name. If you look at this, open file by typing name, this particular use case, okay, open file by typing name, that is a specialization of our open file use case, and this is steps. Now we have the same steps as open file, only thing is this part we have expanded. Choose open command, then file open dialog appears, and here we specify select text field and type file name, then click open, dialog disappears. Okay, now here this one is our open file by typing name use case. It is a specialization of open file use case. Okay, now this is the open file use case steps, and specify file name, here we do not have an idea, but here you have to write down it like this. So here what happens, this is the actual sequence of actions happening there. User clicks a particular button, then dialog appears. In the dialog box there is a text box. Okay, so that text field is selected, and then after typing the file name, a button is there, button is clicked, then dialog disappears, and file will be opened. Okay, so in that way you have to expand this part, and let's move to the next slide. Now the other one is open file by browsing. Open file by browsing, it has related use cases. It is a specialization of open file, and it includes browse for file. If you look at this, this is a specialization of open file use case, as well as it includes browse for file use case. Okay, yes. Now let's see. Now here I hope this one is clear to you. Okay, then after that, this one open file by typing name, there we expanded this part. There we expanded this part. Okay, that means specify file name part we have expanded. Okay, so then we move to another use case, open file by browsing. Use case, okay, open file by browsing. Okay, related use cases, this is a specialization of open file use case. Okay, then it includes browse for file use case. Browse for file is included here. Now let's look at the steps. Okay, here we have actor actions, and here we have system responses. Now here choose open command. Okay, then here file open dialog appears. File open dialog appears. Here third step. Now let's see. Now here we had open file use case. From that we have specialized to open file by typing name, open file by browsing. Okay, so now here if you look at open file use case, let's go to that one. This is the open file use case description. Here we just say specify file name. How it is done is not mentioned here. Now this is an specialization of open file use case. Therefore we have to mention in this particular use case we have to mention how the file name is specified. So it is done by browse for file, using browse for file. Then after that confirm selection, and after that dialog disappears. Okay, that is how it is done. And now here what we have done is here we had the step called specify file name. That one we have shown how the file name is specified, and also here browse for file we are not telling how file is browsed. Okay, because this includes browse for file use case. Okay, that's what we mentioned here. We include the browse for file use case. Now if you look at the diagram, open file by browsing, this includes, okay, includes browse for file use case. That is what we have shown here. Here we execute the browse for file use case. Okay, and now let's see now this one. This one, let's see in our diagram, open file by typing name, that is the base use case. Okay, so attempt to open file, that does not exist, that is an extension. Okay, so the direction of the array is important. This is an extension. Okay, so attempt to open file that does not exist. Now here we have discussed this one we have discussed, this one we have discussed, now this one. Here use case attempt to open file that does not exist. Related use cases are extension of open file by browsing name. This is an extension. Okay. Okay, then here actually these steps, choose open command, then file open dialog appears, then select text field, type file name, click open. Up to this part usually we perform as per in this particular use case. Okay, let's see. Here up to this part it's okay, but now what happens here, this is an exceptional situation, file that does not exist. Then once open command is executed, actually dialog does not disappear as usual. Instead the system should indicate that file does not exist. Okay, then after that correct the file name, then after click open, after that dialog disappears. Okay, this is just an example. Actually what happens here, when we again then for the second time we include a particular name, that also does not exist. Okay, that can occur, but this is just to explain how a use case description should be written. Okay, so therefore don't worry about the actual situation. Actually what happens is, when we include an incorrect file name that does not exist, then for the second time also we might do the same mistake. Okay, that is possible, but this is just to explain you how to write a use case description. Okay, don't worry about the worry about what is mentioned here. Okay, so anyway this is a particular way of doing that. Okay, and now let's move to the next slide. Browse for file. Now if you look at the previous diagram, open file by browsing, open file by browsing. Okay, this is the base use case. To this base use case we include another use case, browse for file. Okay, the direction of the arrow is important. From the base use case this is the included use case. Inside elements we write include. Okay, so now if you look at open file by browsing use case description here actually in this step we have written browse for file, okay, browse for file, but actually meaning of this one is we execute browse for file use case as the third step here. Okay, that is the meaning. Now this is the browse for file use case. Then step C, if the desired file is not displayed, select a directory. Okay, now here if you look at this, we open file by browsing. So we choose open command, then open file open dialog appears. After that we perform these steps. Okay, after dialog appeared we perform these steps. If the desired file is not displayed, then we have to select a directory. Then after selecting the directory, system response is it displays the contents of the directory. Then after that we repeat step 1 until the desired file is displayed. It is something like that. We when dialog appears we select a particular directory, then content inside the directory is displayed, several files and a directory. Again we open that. Okay, its content is displayed. If our file is not there, again we open a directory and likewise we continue. After that we will find somewhere, we will find our file, then we select the file. Okay, that is the browse for file part. Okay, so here if you look at browse for file use case, open file by browsing use case, here we perform. Okay, now file is selected. After that we confirm the selection and then dialog disappears. Okay, likewise, so you have written, actually this is also not the proper way. Usually if you have several directories, then you move open in this one and open and find, then again you have to come to here and open and find the file and something like that. That is the actual way, but here just we want to discuss how use this case description is written. Okay, that's why this kind of an example has been used. There are certain weaknesses in this particular example, but don't worry about that. Okay, anyway, this example is very nice to explain use case descriptions in a very simple manner. Okay, therefore this is a very nice example for beginners. Okay, now the other thing I want to tell you, again let's see this one. Okay, open file by typing name. This is the base use case, and when we try to execute the steps in this use case, exceptional case can occur. That means file does not exist. Attempt to open file that does not exist. Okay, so here the direction of the arrow is important, and inside Gilliam's we write the keyword extend. Okay, this is the base use case, this is the extended use case. Okay, base use case and extended use case. And again here let's see open file by browsing. This is the base use case. Browse for file. Browse for file. Here we have the direction in this way. Inside Gilliam's we have to include. We have to write include. Okay, now base use case, and this is the included use case. Then the directions. Here from the extended use case we have the direction, the arrow to the base use case. Here from the base use case we have the arrow to the included use case. So this direction is important, because now here let's see open file by typing name. Open file by typing name. Here we do not write under related use cases, we do not mention about the extended use case. Okay, and also let's look at browse for file. Browse for file use case. Here under related use cases we do not mention about the base use case. Okay, whether to mention or not, you have to understand it using the direction of the array. Okay, no, arrow. Okay, arrow. Direction of the arrow. Okay, so now here base of the arrow is here, base of the arrow is here. Now we have to mention in this particular use case, in the description of this particular use case, we have to mention that this is a related use case to this one. If you look at this, yes, attempt to open file that does not exist, there you can see extension of this one. Okay, it is an extension of this one. Okay, and if you look at open file by browsing, this one here it says includes browse for file use case. Okay, in that way you have to understand where to write, because the other reason is now if you look at this one, if you look at the description of this one, open file by browsing, in this situation inside the description you have to write execute the browse for file use case. Therefore in this particular description we have included this use case, therefore we have to write it under related use cases. And if you look at this one, attempt to open file that does not exist, here we have written extension of open file by typing name. Therefore we can understand these steps are from a different use case. Okay, and we have extended it. Okay, likewise you have to identify. Then okay, then I again summarize what we have discussed. Before we summarize, let's draw this diagram. Open file use case, okay. Ordinary user okay, then performs this particular use case, and there can be another user, system administrator. We have is a relationship because system administrator should be able to do all the things done by an ordinary user. That is why we have here generalization. All the use cases executed by the ordinary user can be executed by the system administrator as well. That is the meaning of this generalization. Okay. Now here we can generalize this okay, open file by typing name. Here we have, yes, open file by browsing, open file by browsing. Okay, so again when we try to open file by typing name, exceptional case can occur. When we type the file name, that file may not exist in the storage. Okay, so exceptional situation is attempt to open a file that does not exist. Okay, so this one, inside elements we put extend keyword. Direction of the arrow is important. Base use case, this is the extended use case. From the extended use case you have to draw the arrow. Okay, and here we have another use case. Okay, another use case, browse for file. Browse for file. Here to the this is the base use case. Now this is the extended use case. No, this is the included use case. This is the base use case, and inside elements we have to write include. This is the use case diagram. Then I summarize what we have discussed so far. Now we wrote description for open file use case. Their related use cases are open file by typing name and open file by browsing. Generalization of these two. Okay, now it is a generalization. So under steps in the system we execute a particular command, open a file or something like that. Okay, particular command we execute. Then system displays as a dialog, open file dialog. Then we have to specify file name. How file name is specified is not mentioned because it is a generalization. In these two use cases you have to expand the step 3 in this use case, here we just mention specify file name. That should be expanded in this use case and this use case. Okay, so that is the important thing I want to mention. Then we move open file by typing name. Now here we have the same steps as in open file. Instead of having specify file, third step, instead of having specify file name, we have written how it is done. We have to select the text field and type the file name, and here what happens is we click a particular button, open file or something, then file open dialog appears, then there is a text field, there we write the file name, then we select the text field and then type the file name. After that we click the open button, dialog disappears and the file will be displayed. Okay, that is this one. Now let's move to the next one. Open file by browsing. Here also we write the same steps as in open file. Under specify file, here we put we write how the file is specified. Here we write browse for file. Browse for file, actually browse for file means here we execute another use case. This use case we execute as the third step. Okay, and then after that, after execution of this use case, then we confirm the selection. After execution of this use case, actually from browsing we can find the particular file, then we confirm the selection and then dialog disappears and file will be opened. Okay, so then let's move to the next step, attempt to open file that does not exist. Here we attempt to open file that does not exist. That is an extension of open file by typing name. Then we choose open command as in the here, file open dialog appears, then we select the text field as here, type the file name, then click open, but then file dialog disappears and file will be open. Okay, that does not happen here. Instead, system indicates that file does not exist. Then after that the user can correct the file name, then after that click open button and then dialog disappears and the file will be open. Okay, now again you see here browse for file inclusion, and then we discuss here. Actually when we try to execute these steps, let's move to the open file by browsing use case. Here as the third step we executed browse for file use case. Then what happens here, we choose the open command, then file open dialog appears and browse for file use case is executed. Let's see the browse for file. Then here, then in the desired file is not displayed, then we select a directory, then system response is to show the content of the directory. Again we repeat this until we find the required file after we perform the selection of the file. And okay, that is the browse for file use case. After that here after that we confirm selection, then dialog disappears and file will be opened. Okay, then the other thing I want to summarize is, now I hope everything is clear to you. Anyway, again I want to summarize is, when we write the use case description for open file use case, here the third step, we say just we specify file name. Okay, we specify file name. We specify file name. Okay, so we have not shown how it is done. Okay, specifying file name by typing name, it is described here. By browsing, it is described here. And if you look at this one, open file by typing name, there we expand the third step of this particular use case and say select the text field and type file name. Okay, now if you look at open file by browsing, here in the third step we say how we specify the file name, and also here we execute the browse for file use case, and okay, it is like that. And so I hope now you can understand properly. In addition to that, the direction of the arrow is important, and in this use case, under the related use cases of this use case, we have to include this use case. Okay, because the beginning of the arrow is here, and under related use cases of this particular use case, we have to mention this use case. Okay, because beginning of the arrow is here. Okay, that is important. And now that is how we draw a use case diagram and write relevant use case descriptions. So now this one we discuss the modeling processes, choosing use cases on which to focus. Now when you design our use case, when you draw, when you model using use cases, often one use case or very small number can be identified as central to the system. Important ones we can identify as central to the system. The entire system can be built around this particular use case. Okay, not a single use case we can select, not several, single use case, that is important one, a single use case or a set of use cases, and important ones we can consider them as the central of our model, and the rest we can build around that. There are reasons for focusing on particular use cases. Some use cases will represent a high risk because for some reason their implementation is problematic. So some use cases are difficult to implement, and in that case we have to focus. Since there is a risk, we have to concentrate on these use cases and consider these use cases as central ones. Some use cases will have high political or commercial value. In that case also we make them central of our model. Okay, so then let's move to the next slide. Benefits of basing software development on use cases. There are several major benefits. One thing is we can define the scope of our system using a use case model. when we develop requirements, now we can identify the scope of the system, and it's essential for estimation purposes. We used to plan the development process. Now we can plan the development process using use case models. Then we can understand the certain modules of our system, okay, and we used to both develop and validate requirements. We can develop requirements as well as when we try to validate whether our system has satisfied those requirements. In that case, we can use the use case model, okay. Form the basis for the definition of test cases. Test cases means when we try to check whether our system is working properly, we can design test cases and try them whether the system is capable of executing those test cases. So for those purposes, use cases are important. And also when we develop a system, we may have to write user manuals, okay. So in order to write user manuals, these use case models are helpful. Then the last thing, use cases must not be seen as panacea. That means use cases cannot be considered as a solution for everything. The use cases themselves must be validated using requirements validation methods, okay. Some aspects of software are not covered by use case analysis, okay. So actually at first I mentioned that you have to perform use case modeling to develop requirements, but not all the requirements you can gather or analyze using use case models. So we have to be careful in that situation. Innovative solutions may not be considered in use case analysis, okay. Okay, now thank you. Okay, and now we have finished discussing basics of use case diagrams, and I thank Dr. Timothy Lethbridge for granting me the permission to use his slides to create YouTube videos, okay. So if you could understand use case diagrams properly, I have a small request. You can subscribe my channel and like the video, okay. And if you have any questions, okay, so if you have any questions, you can write those questions in the comment section and I will definitely answer, okay. And finally, thank you for watching the video.